Okay, hello everyone. In this session, we are going to discuss about config map. So we have seen workload APIs, storage APIs, networking APIs. Now we will see some of the config APIs where the running container, if I want to pass some kind of non-sensitive data or sensitive data, when the containers, when the pod are spinning up, how can I pass it? Okay, so rather than putting the hard coded values inside the container image, we will be passing these inputs using config map. So first of all, we will see the definition of config map. So definition of config map says a config map is a storage space, is an API object to store the non-confidential data. Okay, non-confidential data means non-sensitive data. Suppose my container, when it is coming up, it looks some kind of config files or maybe some kind of input values, which is like a number of counts or maybe username or maybe not username, basically user details. Okay, metadata information like that. The all must be, when I say username, also it is a non-confidential data. The confidential data is just such as password, secrets, token, they are confidential data. That is a separate topic, we will discuss it. So config map is an API object to store non-confidential data. Pods can consume this config map as an environmental variable or as a volume. Okay, so we can map it. Config map, no encryption will be there. Okay, you can hold up to 1 MB data. So this is the config map YAML file. I'll show you here. First, you will be writing the config map YAML file. So this is the YAML file. Here you can see the kind is config map, name of the config map. Now spec section is not there. Either this section will be data section is there. Inside the data section, you are providing the key and value. This key is already must be used by your application. This is the key field, this is the value field, this is the key field, this is the value field. Second section which you are seeing, it is called file like keys. What is the meaning of file like keys? You will be having multiple keys and values are available under a single file, like properties file is there, config file is there, all these things will be coming here. Okay, so the data field contains what inputs I want to provide it when the pod will go and spin up the container. Okay, so this is the thing which you will be creating it. I'll just go and create the config map using the keepctl command, and the config map is created. Now how to use in the pod? Okay, inside the pod, how will be using the config map? So the cmpod.yaml, you see it here. Spec section, just scroll it down and you will be seeing there is a volume section is coming. If you remember, when we were using the PVC, we have used this section, but in that we were giving the PVC claim PVC name, but here we are giving the config map. We are just mentioning the config map and the name of the config map will come here. Volume name, again same thing. Volume name is defined by you. This should match with the under the container, whatever volume mount name is coming, they must match. Okay, now the last part is the last part is how it should go. Okay, if I'm using the volume and volume mounts thing, the item, this is the key name which is mentioned in the config map. Under the mount path is that what will be the file name, that is what exactly is the thing will come. Okay, under the mount path, under the config, there should must be a game.properties or user interface.properties file must be created. So this is one way to map the config map inside your container. Second way is you can use environmental variable. Inside the environmental variable, you can map value from the config map key reference will come here, and you will be providing the name and the key field. Okay, so that is key based config map mapping. Now I'll go and perform the lab and show you how you can use the config map section and define the things for yourself. Okay, just give me a second. I'll open my lab and share you. Okay, this is the lab. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, now this is the lab which we will be performing it. I already created the config map. You can go and describe it. Already now we will create the pod. Okay, inside the pod we will go and see. whether the config map is. So this is the YAML file which I will be provided in the lab documentation. You just go and create the config map. Now describe the config map. You will be able to see it. There is a config map is already mapped there. Okay. Once the container will come up here, you can see the config map is already there. Okay. I'll just see kubectl get pods. So want to confirm it that the pods are running. Okay, pods are running. Now using the exit command, I will go inside the container. I'll go here. I'm inside the container. I run the command export, and you will be able to see it here. The config map is shown. This is the thing, key value based. This is the key value based. Second thing I should see it, the config directory must be created. Inside that, game.properties or user interface.properties should be created. The game.properties is also there. The user interface.properties is also there. Now if I go and modify the config map, will this value will be reflected here in the runtime of the container? Answer is no. If the containers are running and you go and modify the config map YAML file and apply it, it will not on during the runtime or while the container is running it, they will not able to pick the value. Okay. So for that, you need to go and delete the pod and recreate it again if you want to reinitiate your config map. So config map, just want to summarize the thing. Config map is used for non-sensitive data. If I want to provide some kind of counters, some kind of properties file or config files which is carrying non-sensitive data, we can use config map. Config map size cannot go beyond 1 MB. No encryption will be provided on the config map, and you can use two ways to map in the pod. One is using volume and volume mount, and second is as an environmental variable. I will be sharing the lab link in the chat in the documentation. Please perform the lab. Any issues, please drop me a mail, amit@openwriteup.com. Thank you. Thanks for joining the session.